So good morning, everyone. We are live on the Selling for Heart-Centered Women's group. We started chatting a bit this morning, and today is interview day. And we're going to continue a conversation about the subject of interviews. Not only interviews that people ask us to do, but perhaps the interviews that we could, opportunities for interviews that we could find, or interviews that we could launch. A lot of people want to interview people, use it for content, get to know people, our suppliers, our customers, our anything like that. So we were thinking, we were discussing before the call that we could share some of our experiences with interviews and see if we have questions, things to experiences to share about that. So would someone else like to start here on the call? Maybe talk a little bit about your experience with interviews and get the conversation started, and then we'll see where that goes.
I can begin. As a former journalist, I made a lot of interview, and since I'm an entrepreneur, so since 12 years, I've been interviewed a lot too, and I enjoy the two parts. I enjoy to ask questions, and I enjoy to share what I know to answer a question. I think interview are a way of being able to let people see who we really are, what we have to offer. So I think it's a good thing. I know it's not always comfortable. I know because I coach people about interview, I know that a lot of people feel that they need to be prepared so much to do interview. But what I think is you have to just go with the flow and really be present when somebody interview you. If you are in your head and trying to, direct the interview, and you have prepare your response and you want to deliver the response that you had prepared, there's a risk in working with that way. The risk is you won't be fully present, and maybe you will miss something about the magic that improvisation can also provide. And for me, what is really attractive is an interview. It's when I don't know what I will create, and then I go out of this interview with some magical things that I create with the other person.
So you are attracted to interviews where you don't know 100% where you're going to create. I don't know if that's a common experience. Yeah, I know that. I feel like I want to know what's going to happen, but I understand what you're saying is you feel attracted to where you know something's going to be created around who you are and what you do. And of course, it would be more fun for people if it's not all recited by heart. I can understand that for the person listening, how is it? Do you think it's because you have experience with it, or is there something that we can learn from what you're saying? That I would like to be attracted to interviews where I don't know what's going to happen, but it's not my case yet. So
yeah, I guess perfectionism is a big problem with the kind of interview that I told you about, because if you really want to be perfect and everything will be perfect and I have to say that this way or this way, it's in a way of natural happening. So my guess is I guess because you think, yeah, people think that because I was in media, it's easy. But it was not easy, and it's still not. I just try to take not easy and turn it to anticipation and pleasure. I focus in something else.
So it's more about mindset, which is something that we could all learn here without having to do 25 years or something in in radio or
it's about
yes.
mindset, but it's about what is it that you want to live? Because an interview, it's something that you will live. It's not something that you will do. It's something that you will live.
That's true. It's something that you have an opportunity to do, also that you have an opportunity to experience, to share about yourself. I think what I'm fearing when I don't know what's happening is I want to of course there's perfectionism, that's true, like wanting to not look a certain way, but there's also we I know for myself, I want people to know that I am an expert in my field and that I can help them. So I guess it's the idea that there might be a question or something that may not express exactly who I am and what I do. So that may be a not real thing, or it might be, that's I think that's
Yeah.
the fear for me more than not being perfect. But like I want it to reflect, because it's an interview. It's not something I prepared. I'm not doing my own presentation. It's not my content. So I want to be sure that it does reflect on me, at least who I really am and what I do. So that may be a reason.
Yeah. Rina has a question.
No,
Yeah,
uh,
you want
actually,
to share?
yes, I just want to add, agree on both of you, but what everything that Lynn Marie resonates with me. For me, interview is selling yourself, but it doesn't mean that you have to be like stiff. It has to be natural. Uh, Personally, in my past experiences with interviews, I get the jobs when I'm more natural rather than those jobs that are like set, like, because some interviews they give you questionnaires from the beginning, so you try to memorize the answers to those, and it doesn't. Sometimes it becomes like stiff, it becomes so robotic that it's no longer natural, that you don't feel that connection with the interviewer anymore, so you lose each other during that time. And i I did not get those jobs that are so robotic. I got the jobs when it was more natural, when it's more casual. So
Yeah. And I think it's the same with videos interview, and it's all the same. And one thing though because I'm coaching people, and one thing that I know, and I experience it too, there is this fear of being judged.
yes.
There is this fear that people will think I'm not good. I don't know what I do. I'm not an expert. This is bullshit. What I'm saying, this fear that people will see the part of me that is not certain about things. And this is a big fear. And it's not only an interview for my part. This is a fear that I faced in all my life. Since the beginning, I would say, I guess, maybe not, but maybe 10 or maybe Carla can help us about it, because she worked with brain. But what I saw all my life is this fear inside of me, and this fear in the eyes of other people.
That's true. Yeah. Go ahead, Carla.
I actually was interviewed a couple months ago, and it was first interview that I've ever had. It was scary. It was really scary. They had given me questions to prep beforehand, which really helped kind of do the whole flow of the interview. But I feel the same way, Limri, is that I really felt that I have to know what I'm talking about in every direction, or people would judge me that I'm a fake, that I am just making up things, or And I'm coming into a couple more interviews. So I'm hoping that that experience went very well. So I'm hoping that I can kind of carry that experience into the next one, and try to be more natural. But it is scary when you're in front of people and they're asking you exactly what you do and how you do it.
And the idea the thinking that I will be vulnerable, I will be fragile. If there is a question that I don't know the answer, this is the end of my world. And, I will feel stupid and I will look stupid. But the reality is, every human being that's listening, watching your interview can connect with you, not through your perfection, but through your vulnerability. Oh, I practiced this word. I have to practice.
Good job.
And then, that's where they connect to you. And that's the moment where they come aboard and they say, okay, this lady, she's like me.
Yeah.
And she don't have the answer, and that's fine.
Yeah.
Mina.
Yeah, so I just want to add to Lyne Marie. Yeah, so an interview is a time to connect, because before we went to the interview, we already have the skills and the characters for that position. We know that we have everything, and even the interviewer knows that we have a lot of what they're looking for. That's the reason why they called us for the interview. And so it's now the interview is just the connection. Do we connect to each other? Is she going to be a good employee to me? Well, it's like, are we going to be able to talk, or are we going to be robots around each other? I think that's what it is. It's really the connection that they're looking for. And when we're so prepared, then, like, as mentioned earlier, we lose that connection because we become robotic. So,
but what I would say about preparing, I think you have to prepare. You have to know your stuff. You have to be solid about what you have to bring in the business that interview you, or in the interview. You have to know yourself. You have to be solid. But when you arrive there, it's time to let go and just be trust yourself that you will be this person that you want to be. And I know it feels like kind of not so solid stuff, but it is what it is. When you prepare yourself, when you arrive there, there's nothing else to do than connect with the people, the person in front of you. Nothing else to do. And if you miss that, you will
feel bad.
What?
Feel bad after.
Yeah, and and I want to say you will struggle. And then you will be in your head, and more in your head, and less connect with the person in front of you.
That's really good. I'd like to know, in the last couple of minutes, is it something that you are interested in, that we are interested in, is finding opportunities for interviews? That's one thing I'd like to know, because there are lots of opportunities, but how can we support each other? Yes. So Carla said yes. And Carla has some coming up. If we had some coming up, if everyone had, has interviews at some point, or several of us do, what can we do to help each other? If it's not to practice questions, but what can we do on this group, on the Facebook group, because there are others who are not on the call too, to help? Like, what can we do, Carla? What do you think? Like, what can people do to help you prepare? Like, what can you do? How can you utilize the group, the calls? This is what it's for. And if we could arrive confidently at our interviews, imagine the what we would have won from these calls in this group. So what one is, do we want interviews? What kind of interviews? And there's podcast interviews, there's opportunities that we could always share when we see them. We could share them on the group. And then the other thing is, what can we do to help each other, support each other in finding them or in holding them or in launching one, What is it that we could do?
I'm not really sure. Like I have a podcast coming up. I have an interview, and in the spring I have where I'm actually presenting a PowerPoint presentation through a lunch and learn. So I have 3 different types of I guess interviews or opportunities, and I know from there it's going to get more. But I'm not sure. Like for me, definitely have to be prepared. The questions prior are very helpful, to kind of give you a guideline of the actual flow. I'm not sure. Maybe to be, I think the more opportunities you have, the more confident and the more natural you're going to feel, and so I think just making yourself more vulnerable, just to kind of get connected on those Facebook groups or LinkedIn groups or whatever that are more applicable to your niche, to find out, are they looking for speakers, so anywhere that you can find, sign up for those. That'll just, you have to just, and like me, as scared as I am, just to jump out and do it. I think my biggest fear is because sometimes I do stutter. I think that's my glitch sometimes. I was like, oh, I'm so scared to jump out because of that. But I know I have to in order to grow and get better.
I have a suggestion, though I don't know if it's a good thing or if it's what people want, but like you have an interview that coming, right? You will have a podcast, I guess you said.
It's a podcast the end of October, and I know I'm dealing with somebody that might be the mid October, which is a podcast as well. At the end of October, I think it's where I'm presenting myself and no questions, where the podcast is going to be an interview.
Okay, so what about we question you about your subject or the subject of the interview, so we can learn from you, and then you can practice to answer question. And I don't know if it's a good idea, but it's what
I thought about that. So we could question you about the subject, or also we could get what is it, like advanced info, or we could also question you about your preparation. Like, what are you doing? What are you thinking about? How is it going for you? Or I don't know if we could do something like that. It's an example. I can take notes of suggestions, and I'll put a post on the group. And if anybody wants to add questions or ideas, or we could share interviews when we find some good ones, for example.
Sure.
Share opportunities when we see them on the group. It could start to be if it's of interest. I could imagine everybody here on an interview, on interviews outside of the group. Karine, Vina, is there something you'd like to add in the last couple of minutes about either what we talked about interviews, or are you interested in interviews? Are you never going to do an interview? Would you like to launch an interview? Anything?
I won't say never. Never. I would say never that I did like interviews in the past, because like I said, it became robotic. The interviews that I like are the natural ones, but like Lyne Marie said, you still have to be prepared. You have to be yourself to go there. Yeah, bye, Lyne Marie.
Bye.
Yeah, and we can help Carla prepare, I guess. I think it will help all of us as well to have this practice about interview, about her podcast and all these things, because we talk about podcast, practicing the podcast, but I don't know if when are
Yes,
we doing
true.
that?
Well, it would be, we could either do a separate call for people who want to participate, or it could be on a call that's not recorded, so that whatever she is sharing is not like on a video somewhere, in case, it's not fun, that would be public because it's preparing for a podcast. So we could, but we could have like a special at a time that works for her. Whoever wants to jump on a Facebook room, for example, a 30-minute Facebook room to prepare for your interview. If that can be helpful to you, I think it would be helpful to anyone who is,
Absolutely.
yeah. And it could be also a trend that we could, people who have something they're preparing would have other people who are available to give them feedback, and we learn for sure when we do that with you. So what do you think, Karine?
Yeah, I think it's a great idea for me, for everybody to know how to make or to do interviews, and we can help each other to give good answer, and to be like to connect with somebody who give that interview, or yeah, it's better to connect, and we have to practice together.
I like that.
I think yeah, it's better for me to know that part too.
That's great. I like how both times, anyway, that I've taken notes with you, you just sum up everything for me. And I usually have to do that. I usually do that at the end of my notes, like I make a summary. But like both times I've taken notes with you, you made the summary for me. So it's so clear how in a couple words I find that you summed it all up in the whole call. So that's very helpful. Thank you very much, everyone. So great call about interviews. Looking forward to seeing you tomorrow. We're still working on our podcast week, so audios will be available this week for everyone who was on the calls. It won't be shared publicly because they're not edited, or they are, but they're not. They were not prepared for the public, the audios. So they'll be shared with the people who were on the calls this week and last Friday. And then we'll be discussing by next week if we do create a podcast show from our morning calls. And also we'll be getting tips about audios, because my husband is the one working on the audios, and he'll be giving us some tips and a whole bunch of things that might be helpful also for our interviews, because audio makes a difference even in video. So you know what I mean? I don't know if that makes sense. Anyway, thank you everyone for the calls, and I'll see you in the morning, and have a great day today.
You too. Thank you.
Bye.